Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Tuesday afternoon. Just watching suspenseful baseball playoff action right before you get on air. Always something fun to do. The Astros are taking on the Twins right now. We'll give you an update on that in just a minute. On the show today, we'll talk more Texas OU. Of course, we'll get into start talking about what Texas goes on to next. They do have a bye week this week, so no big game this week, but they do have to get some things in order, start to look at some other ideas. Jerry Jones spoke to the 105.3 The Fan today. We'll play you some audio from that and look at the Cowboys again and see what they're doing. I'll give you a little recap of watching the Spurs' first pregame game last night, the debut of Wembanyama in an NBA game against regular players. I will give you that recap of just a few little bit, not too much NBA talk. You know, we haven't gotten the regular season yet. We will give you that as well. We are off at 6:30 for Rangers pregame. They will be taking on the Orioles if they win, they move on. If not, they play again tomorrow. That'll be going on at 6:30 right here on the Horn to give you that. Remember, text line is open, 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776. Is the text line number. You guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. We'll be talking a lot of Texas OU. If you've got any more opinions about that, if you still haven't gotten off, if you're still angry, I mean, we're still not happy. If you're still really angry, you still got things you think they need to fix. You know, we know red zone troubles. We'll play you some stuff from Hook 'Em Up, talking about the red zone stand. We'll talk about, the different aspects of the game, the defense not coming through the lines of scrimmage. We can talk about all that. If you got anything you want to talk about, Texas, Cowboys, Texans, baseball, all of it. 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776. Right before we came on the air, Christian Javier got out of another jam at the bottom of the fifth inning. Bases loaded, had walked the bases loaded, and then gets a huge strikeout to get out of the inning. Astros are now still up 5-0 going into the top of the sixth inning. The Astros and the Twins are tied 1-1. And it's a weird thing if you're an Astros fan because it's the only fan base where you woke up this morning and said, well, at least it's a road game. At least it's a road game because the Astros awesome on the road. Terrible at home. But awesome on the road. We talk about the Longhorns. There is something to be said about the Longhorns on the road versus at home. That on the road, they seem to be a little bit better of not getting into penalty trouble, not getting so many outlandish penalties. I don't know if it's just more focused, if more when you're at the line, worrying about different things. I don't know if that's what it is, but they seem to be better at it. At Dallas, that was not the case. At the Cotton Bowl, this team was not that team. They were not the more disciplined team. 9 penalties for 70 yards for the Longhorns. It's one of the things in this that is talked about less because of the other glaring areas that they were beat so bad at the lines of scrimmage and were not able to get pressure on Dillon Gabriel. And when they did, they were able to surround him but not get to him, and he was still able to get the ball out, or he was able to squirt out the side and go get a big play. All of those things are things you have to worry about if you're coaching this Texas defense. If you're Pete Kukowski, you have to worry about those things. You have to worry about your linebackers. And, just basically that there's part of it that this Oklahoma team gave a game plan to the rest of your opponents. Now, part of it, a lot of people cannot match because, as much as this is going to be the biggest game for all these opponents, and Texas is still the big game that you want to beat Texas, I get that. It's not a thing. It's not a game plan where you can easily replicate, be the more physical team against a bunch of big guys. Like, that goal line stand works on any other team in the Big 12. That big four downs where they don't get it in. That works on any other team in the Big 12 just because they have the size. Oklahoma is the other team that has the size. Now, it still should have worked. You still should have been able to get movement, but they weren't able to do that. But I'll play you some sound of Rod Babers talking about that in a minute. But when you talk about the defensive breakdowns and that drive at the end of the game, I think there's something in that as well of when you look at this team and you came down to it. And, I know there was time management was discussed a lot yesterday. People are getting upset that Sark, didn't basically try and run all the clock off before kicking a long field goal. And I get that. I don't think he thought that drive was going to stall out when it did. I thought he felt that he could get the ball down there pretty easily, and if he couldn't, he'd want to get another shot. Sark's an offensive guy. I don't necessarily fault him for that he wanted to get the ball down there. Here's Sark talking yesterday about the defensive breakdowns on the final drive.
The first one was kind of a missed tackle there on the sidelines where it would have been great to wrap the receiver up and keep him in bounds to keep the clock rolling. We let him get out of bounds. The second one was, miscommunication in the back end where our two safeties are playing one coverage and everybody else is playing another coverage, and in turn, the same common theme defensively reared its ugly head. We didn't have very good pass rush lanes, and Gabriel was able to really step up in the pocket and give the illusion that he was going to run, and then that forced Jaylan Ford to have to try to come up, and then he finds Stoops in behind him for about a 30-yard gain right there. But in reality, it all started with we weren't on the same page from a coverage standpoint. So those were the first two. Naturally, hey, the pass interference is pass interference. We could argue it was or it wasn't. But then in the end, they're scrambling a little bit. There's 15 seconds on the clock. We felt like we had a great call, and we didn't execute it. So that part was probably the most disappointing thing. But that was a little bit of a common theme overall, that if you looked at offense, you looked at special teams, you looked at defense, at different aspects of the game, we didn't execute some things that were, I don't want to call them simple, but things that we've been running now for almost 2.5 months. And so I'd like to think that we can operate better than that. And so we've got to get back to executing at a level that is the standard around here.
So that's kind of the problem is, we know that this team was going into this season. Everybody was worried about the third and fourth quarter and the second half and the team not responding. And this team, especially offensively, has been much better in the second half. The defense has been better in the second half, too. I think those defensive rotations helped out a lot. Now, when you lose Catalon, you lose Watts, that rotation has to tighten up a little bit. You just weren't able to get the pressure on the quarterback in the defensive line. You were getting beat up on that, too. So I don't know if they just were out of energy by the end of this game or what. But they definitely did not seem ready to go. They definitely did not seem like a team that was ready to go on that fourth quarter drive at the end of the game. They didn't seem like the team that was ready to go out there. And it seemed like most of the game, Oklahoma kind of knew what Texas defenses were going to do. They had the game film. They've seen them play against other good offenses. They knew what this defense was going to look like. And they were able to pick it apart pretty easily and guess where people were going to be and know where those coverages are. Even at the end of the game, the touchdown play where Jerrin Thompson's able to get they're able to get Jerrin Thompson to have to pick between two guys, and he basically has his choice of who he wants to throw a touchdown to. He gets his choice on the game-winning touchdown, which you never want to see. You want to see one guy make a great play, not a scheme get beat by a scheme. That's what you saw. Sark then talked about fixing the defensive mistakes and trying to move forward because that's what you're having to do now after Texas. So you lost the game. You got to move forward. You got to go ahead. We'll talk about that a little bit in the poll, but you have to move ahead now. And how do you fix those defensive mistakes? Here's Sark.
Well, I think one thing we have to be careful of is everybody wants, and we all want to pressure the quarterback. And sometimes in game, trying to sack the quarterback maybe isn't always the best thing to do, because that's when you can get out of your rush lane and you can create a really big B gap for a quarterback to go run through. Or you try to come underneath the tackle and now you let the quarterback flush out to his left and buy more time. And in turn, now you have to cover longer, right, down the field. So I think we need to be mindful of how we rush and who we're rushing against. I think that's one thing that we can improve upon. And then the second thing is just making sure we're on the same page in the secondary. We can't have, two critical breakdowns in the secondary in that type of a game, in that moment of the game. We need to all be on the same page, and that goes back to communication and making sure that we're on the same page and operating the calls that we have.
And that's kind of where you think that a Catalon could be useful in a moment like that, where he is pretty good. He's been good about talking. So he's not the best coverage safety, but you think a Catalon could be useful in that. You think of Ryan Watts on coverage on the outside corner where they're trying to get to the short side to get the ball out of bounds. Could have been good. You have to fix those things. But the part where he says, we can't really rush the quarterback, and you go, I don't want to blitz the quarterback. I get that. But I'm fine with him staying in the middle of the field and having to, get 10 yards and go that way. We just don't want quick plays to the outside where he gets to throw the ball over and get out that way. I know you don't want to blitz, but you want to get pressure. And that was kind of where the problem is the defensive line couldn't even get pressure at the end and allowed Dillon Gabriel to sit back, see what he wanted to see, not get their hands up, not get him, you tip one of those passes off, you can have a different game. So all of those things are, what you could do. It's now about how do you fix those. And I think one of the things you have to look at if you're Texas is getting that communication up between every player. So if a Ryan Watts is supposed to be calling out something, or if a Catalon is supposed to be calling out something, or if Jaylan Ford is that guy at my middle linebacker, but he seems to be not having his best game for whatever reason, I think they need to find more and more guys to communicate before the snap to get closer to where they are and not worry too much about the offense knowing what they're going to do in that coverage. You just have to be able to not get these coverage lapses that happened in the game. Because that, to me, when we see that whole second half, when Dillon Gabriel's about to be able to do whatever he wants to do, Dillon Gabriel will be able to score, and just he's able to keep changing and morphing. You had to know that was something that Dillon Gabriel could do and kind of play a little bit more risky of a defense at the end of that game and be a little bit riskier to not allow them to score with 3 seconds left on the clock or 7 seconds or whatever it was. That's fixable things on the defense. These are fixable things. So this defense has its issues, and if Catalon is able to come back, and if Ryan Watts is able to come back, it helps out some of those things on the issues as well. The linebackers need to, get a little bit more vocal, I think, and get a little bit better out there of understanding where all of their positions need to be in an offense when you're playing against an offense with a multi-talented quarterback, because this is what we didn't see against Jalen Daniels, which may have helped this team a little bit if he did play. We don't want to go back and do, revisionist thinking that if Jalen Daniels plays for Kansas, we beat Kansas, we beat Oklahoma. That's stupid. But we're saying if you've got to see another quarterback like that could do a little bit more of what Dillon Gabriel got to do, then maybe the linebackers would be a week ahead of where they're at. Now you're where you're at now, and you're expecting to play Oklahoma again in this season. It is a bye week, though. And this is the week where you have to start getting ready for the rest of the season and the rest of the Big 12. And you have to start looking at the Texas OU game as what it was, which is you got punked by OU. You didn't show up as when in the situations you needed to, but you still were in that game. You were still a team that could have won that football game, even with getting beat on both lines of scrimmage. You still had a shot to win that game. You were still up with under 2 minutes left in that game. So you need to start going forward, but not, just reset where you're at and continue to play with the style of play and with the determination and with the intent that you need to be playing with. And for Texas, there is a positive that Sark kind of set the goal with a 1 or 2 loss season in mind. Now, the 2 losses may be even too much now in the Big 12 play, but a 1 loss in Big 12 play season in mind, he set out. You just want to get the Big 12 championship game. Big 12 title is still the goal, right? Big 12 title is still the goal. So you can go back and you want that rematch against Oklahoma now, and you can come back in a rematch against Oklahoma, and you can be the pissed off team now. Here's Sark talking about the Big 12 title still being the goal.
Well, I think it's helpful. We went into this season with the goal to be champions, and those goals still remain because they're reality, right? I think now more than ever, there's no divisions in the Big 12. The 2 best teams get to go play for a championship, and we control that with what we do and how we play. Naturally, nobody likes to lose a game, but we got to go handle our business, and we're more than capable of doing that. And so we do talk about big picture, especially during a bye week, so that they can understand the lay of the land. And then we drill back down into what's of importance right now and what do we need to do to make sure that we put ourselves in that position down the road.
That's the bye week. This is, we talked yesterday. I know a texter sent in that this may be a players-only meeting bye week. You may need to go in there and try and get something done. I don't think this is a players-only meeting because you know what you did. There's not It's not crazy. And I get Texers. We don't control our own destiny. No one assumes that if you are a one-loss team in this Big 12 that you are not going to make the Big 12 playoff. I get it. I get that technically we don't. But no one assumes that anyone else is going to win out in the Big 12. There's going to be 2 undefeated teams. No one is assuming that right now. So if we're going to assume that Texas can win out, then a one-loss team will most likely get to the Big 12 championship. That's what we're saying. It may not be. Maybe it's all for naught. And this season was a complete waste because the Big 12 was so bad that a couple other teams, West Virginia is able to come out there and get a big win. And, Texas is not able to get, but I think we all assume the Big 12 is going to eat itself because it seemed like that's what's kind of happening already. So for Texas, you have to go with the assumption that Texas is going to have another shot at Oklahoma, that you are going to be able to win out, show everybody what you do, be the good team, get to the Big 12 championship game, and then go out there and play again. But you got to look at the positives, and you got to build from the positives. Quinn Ewers stepping up in this game has been huge. Quinn Ewers responding after having the start he did. Quinn Ewers responding and being able to be a leader on the sideline and get this team to turn around when all momentum was gone, that this could have been a runaway blowout for Oklahoma after the way the game started. That, when we see that the defensive and offensive line never really started to get going and never really dominated this game, that you think this game could have gone really badly. If Dillon Gabriel just kept picking Texas apart and just kept going and Quinn Ewers just went downhill after those interceptions, this conversation on a Tuesday is much, much worse. This is now, how do we save the season? Here's start talking about Quinn Ewers responding and kind of the growth of Quinn Ewers. If you want to be that team that is going to compete for a national championship or compete for a Big 12 championship, you have to be more of the guy we saw in Dillon Gabriel. And Quinn Ewers has more, size, has more natural athletic ability and talent in his arm. But Dillon Gabriel's got the experience. Dillon Gabriel has been playing for longer, and he came out there and showed that he was really great in that game. Quinn Ewers, though, came back 19 straight completions. Here's Sark talking about Quinn Ewers responding.
Well, I think, for Quinn, let's compare last year to this year, of how far he's come from a maturity standpoint, a confidence standpoint. A year ago, for any quarterback, you throw 2 picks your first 2 drives that you're on the field, that can rattle you pretty good. And the response that he showed to, at one point, I think, complete 19 passes in a row in that game, I thought was really tremendous under some duress. They sacks. He had a fumble in there. He got hit pretty good scrambling. But I thought the poise and composure he showed was indicative of a guy who's growing in confidence, who's maturing, and definitely a guy that I know we can count on at a high level here the second half of the season.
So if we say we know what he can do, we know that Xavier Worthy, what he can do. Adonai Mitchell did not step out in that game as much. He had some plays where he wasn't quite as crisp as he needed to be. You can go back and watch some film of that, of Adonai Mitchell kind of losing Quinn Ewers' trust in the middle of that game, which is something that you have to work on, and that's going to be a communication thing going forward. But you have all that, and then you throw in the fact of Jonathan Brooks. Still has 100 yards rushing in that game, 129 yards rushing in that game. Still comes out and has a great game. 34 yards receiving for Jonathan Brooks. Still comes out and is one of the best running backs in the country. And to go from having Bijan and Roschon to still having one of the best running backs in the country definitely takes this Texas team to a different level that you think can go, and you can build on this going forward. But you have to be able to fix red zone. You have to be able to fix the defensive lapses and the fact that they can get big plays over the top, because these really good teams that you're going to be facing at the end of the season, these teams are going to be able to keep up with you for enough of the game that those lapses can be the difference in the game. And Chan, you're right. Not being able to punch it in on the 1 yard line, it sucked. We said that a bunch yesterday. Said sucked more than I've said in any other broadcast. And that was not even talking about the Dallas Cowboys as much. But let's go to the big fat poll today, because I think this leads into what we want to talk about with Texas. We kind of want to start moving forward past Texas OU. We can still talk about it, but I think we all know, there's not that much you can look at this Texas OU game and break down and say, these are, that we knew what the problems were. We knew what the problems were walking into the game. We knew the red zone was going to be a problem. We didn't think the line play was going to be. So we can say, you can break down why the line play was bad, but I think that's more just the team. One team really was pissed off about it, and the other team was trying to do what they were supposed to do. And the pissed off team is going to have a good shot at that. It may overreact, but it didn't. Let's get the big fat poll today.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
But if we look forward, what Texas has to do, still got some games on the schedule, still has to go out there and compete, still not get caught up. If Texas wins this game, we say every game left is a trap game. And that's, we were getting ahead of ourselves already, saying every game left was a trap game. Every game left's a trap game. After Oklahoma, every game. Well, not trap games anymore because you lost. So there's no traps anymore. Now it is just you need to go back out there and reset your dominance in the Big 12. You need to go out there and reset that you are the best team in the Big 12 and that the Oklahoma game was the anomaly, not the trend. You can't start them as a trend. It needs to be the anomaly. So if we see that, Texas is going to have to step up and win some games in a convincing manner. So we ask you for Patrick's Big Fat Poll today. 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776. How many losses do you see left on Texas' schedule? We've got one now. How many losses do you see left? On the regular season, we'll say regular season. We won't pontificate if we get to a Big 12 championship game or a bowl game or any of that. We don't have to pontificate on any of that. But for the rest of the schedule, what will Texas do? How is their record going to be? When we say you still have Houston in 2 weeks, BYU, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State, Tech, and Texas Tech. You still have those three teams left. Still those games. And, you can say they're trap games. You can say they're not. 512-447-3776. How many losses do you see left? Let me know what losses you see. Are you still worried about K-State? A 3-2 K-State not looking quite as good. BYU has not looked great, but, maybe BYU can get in there and get you. BYU's had, Texas number in the past. TCU looks down. Iowa State doesn't look great. Texas Tech is always coming to play. We know Brett Yormark, who he's rooting for. Send us in. What do you think the number is? They're at one loss already. They get another one? Who is it? I mean, I still think this Texas team can run the table pretty easily. I think they can win 6 more games pretty easily. You don't play a West Virginia team who's resurgent, which you kind of wish you did because you'd like to put them in their place. I think they'll lose a couple games before the season's over. But maybe they won't. What do you got? What's the number? 512-447-3776. We're going to come back. We come back. We will play this clip from Hook 'em Up. We will start reading your text, 512-447-3776. We'll talk some more Texas OU. We come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex on a Tuesday afternoon. Playing some ACL Fest artists all week long. It's our musical theme of the weeks. Playing some ACL Fest artists. Good luck to, or have a good time to anybody who got tickets to go see the Austin City Limits taping of Foo Fighters tonight down at ACL Live. That'll be a lot of fun, I'm sure. So if you're going down there, have a good time tonight. Enjoy it. If you're watching the Rangers game, they're playing a pregame at 6:30 right here on the Horn today. Astros are still up 5-1 on the Minnesota Twins in their game as well. Another big game happening right now for some MLB and seeing if we get that great Rangers-Astros ALCS matchup. That would be so much fun to watch. And I know Rangers fans really don't want it. And Astros fans should not. I mean, the Orioles look worse than the Rangers do right now, that's for sure. But, you know, I think it's just as a fan of sports, you'd like to see that rivalry start, like really pick up. That would be a lot of fun to watch in the LCS. That's what I think, personally. We asked you guys before the break. We're talking about UT and Oklahoma and Texas going forward. We asked you how many losses do you see on the rest of Texas schedules? You know, kind of varying accounts. Talking about Texas, we got if my aunt had a package, she would be my uncle. Yeah. They choked, like Rod says, about prevent defenses. They did. This is the thing about them choking. They did, but that's really kind of the reality of the story is they shouldn't have been in that situation. They played terribly. Like the line played terribly for the entire game. It's surprising that they were even in it at the end. So there's one way of looking at it that you blew that game at the end, and the other way of looking at it is how are you even in that game? You should there's positives because you shouldn't have even been in that. Ewers needs to start sliding more. Defenses are seeing him going head first a lot. Best case, he gets hit and we get 15 yards and they get ejected, possibly targeting. Worst case, you come up short. But since the slide stops play immediately, you drop the ball, it's already dead. I agree. It's a weird thing that quarterbacks, you can't just teach them to slide. It takes a year pretty much to get any quarterback to really get into it. You have to kind of do it in the offseason. I don't think they expected Quinn to run as much as he is running. I'm sure if he goes to the NFL, then that'll be something they'll try and teach him how to do there. But they'll try and get him to run less in the NFL as well. But, yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to teach him that this season. It's not an instinctual thing to do. The instinctual thing is to lean forward. You're top heavy. You got the ball and just kind of go with where your body takes you, not to lean backwards and slide. So I don't know if you'll get there, but I agree with you. I would at least be trying to preach it. I'd at least try and practice it a little bit and get him more used to sliding just so you could maybe get that just be a little bit safer. I love him running. He's done some great things running, but I agree with that. Chan, freaking A, it better be at 0. I don't think look, the rest of the season for the Longhorns isn't there's not a lot of great teams on the rest of that. Oklahoma has a harder schedule going forward. They got a 3-week span at Kansas, at Oklahoma State, who I know is down, but it is still Bedlam. It's still a rivalry game. They got to do that one. And then they got to go, then they play West Virginia and Norman. West Virginia's looked good this year. I mean, they've won. I'll say they've won. I haven't watched a ton of West Virginia, but they have been winning. So, if we look at that, they have a 3-week span where they could, if they come up short on any of those, that's a disappointing loss for them. At the 1 lineup under, they have Sweat, push, whoever, and at the 1, no, I get that you could have done the push-tush, or the tush-push, with Sweat behind instead of trying to push away. I don't think it really would have worked as well, and I know they're in college. They're kind of more leery of that. They've had issues with that. We know it's worked before, and people can do it. But I think if you put kind of Murphy in front and Tavondre Sweat in back and tried to push, then, I don't know if they're going to allow that, but they may. They may. Coach Schlitzky? Think I'm saying that right? Better be 0. I like that one. We beat ourselves once, and then we get beat once. Carey from Georgetown. You think they get 2 more losses on this schedule? 2 more losses, Carey from Georgetown. Tell me who you think they're from. I want to know who you think they're from. If you think there's 2 more losses. All right, so 6 sacks and 2 interceptions, and Young now. Is that Heisman? Again, I don't care if Quinn Ewers wins the Heisman. I don't know why every discussion about Quinn Ewers has to start and end at the Heisman. Every discussion we have, if I say Quinn Ewers is looking good, my goal on this is for him to be a Big 12 caliber quarterback. And he is a Big 12 champion caliber quarterback, a national champion caliber quarterback. He is that. I don't need him to be the greatest quarterback. I know that's what Sark wants. I know that's what Ewers wants. I know that's kind of what people want, but I don't think of that's not what my goal for him is this season. It's to win ball games. And we did not lose that ball game to his fault. That one route was not a great route run by Adonai Mitchell, and he threw it in there. He shouldn't have forced it. And the second one, he threw over to JT Sanders. Oklahoma knew the signals. They were able to come over and double on Sanders and get the ball poked out. But he put the ball where it was supposed to be, where only JT Sanders could catch it. If he throws, I know people say he threw it high. He threw it because he was the only guy who was going to be able to get it. If he throws it low, you say he threw it into traffic. So I know that people keep getting on this. I just, there's people that just hate quarterbacks, and they will always hate any quarterback that they're on their team because they're overcritical. And I'm not saying that's you, Kerry. I'm not saying it's you. But I'm saying there's people that will do this, and whatever pass they make, unless they're throwing to a wide open guy, which they can't decide that. There's, if they're only throwing to wide open guys, then they might as well tuck the ball and run it 90% of plays. You got to be able to fit those in. He put the ball where it needed to be. Quinn had a very good game. He had a terrible start and a great game after that. And then the play calling wasn't great. And Sark has a hard time trying to pick runs and passes and being able to hide that from the defense. Oklahoma knew too many times whether it was a run or a pass, and it got too predictable at points. You have to keep – it's not about running a crazy play every time that has – the blocking scheme is crazy. It's about play calling and breaking tendency so that the defense can't line up and say, well, we're going to stop Jonathan Brooks on first, and then on second down when he throws the ball, we'll drop back into coverage and we'll blitz him, and then on third down, we'll get back to Jonathan Brooks. You just can't do that. Coach Rodney from Rosebud Lot. I don't see Texas losing another game. I do feel like Oklahoma may struggle in a few games. I hope they both win out and we get a shot at the Big 12 title. I do believe Oklahoma trained for this Texas game the way Texas trained for the Alabama game, so I hope this wasn't their one and done. Look, this was, from everything you hear from Oklahoma fans and people listening in Oklahoma, from people covering Oklahoma, was the first game on their schedule where they really had to go. So they were preparing all season to come and avenge 49-0. That's what they were doing. So, yeah, you get to that. I want to play this clip from Hook 'em Up this morning from me and Robbie. We're going to get back to your text, 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776. This is from this morning. Rob Babers, Aaron Hogan talking about that red zone stand and why you can't make excuses. You just have to get better. Here's Ian Rob B this morning.
All right, let's just get back to some more Sark songs. I want to make sure we get to as much of it as we can because he really addressed a lot of different topics. And I'll give Sark a lot of credit too, man. Sark doesn't hide from the questions, and he doesn't really beat around the bush. And he will let you know if he thinks that he should have called a play differently or if he should have approached a situation differently. Let you know about the thought process, the rationale. I really appreciate that from Sark. So he was asked about the goal line situation. Texas having 4 downs on the goal line, going jumbo and heavy package, and still not being able to punch it in. Of course, they threw it on 4th down, still couldn't get it in. He was asked, and let's do the one with the question here because the way he answers it, it's kind of weird just throughout the response. So we'll put in the question here too. Here is Steve Sarkisian being asked about the goal line play calling.
Yeah, Steve, your game plan was creative as hell with fake punts and Savion Red and Gunnar Helm and all. The 4 tries from the 1.
That sucked.
Yeah. Do you see that as a toughness issue, and did you just felt like you should have been more creative there?
No, I don't think it was toughness at all. The first down play, their kid makes a really nice play. He kind of shoots the gap and gets into Jonathan Brooks's legs. The second down call, that was the sequencing of those 2 calls that I knew I was going to go with there. The edge, we just don't get enough of the edge, and we get the ball down to the 1 again. Quite frankly, if I could do it all over again, I would have changed the 3rd down call. I might have ran what I ran on 4th down, on 3rd down, which I don't know if that's creative enough or not, but I probably would have done that on 3rd down and then gone to something a little bit different on 4th down. So, I call it stubborn, whatever it was. I went back to the 1st down call on 3rd down and obviously not effective enough. And I'd love for us to execute it a little bit better than we did, but That's the way it goes sometimes, and so, but yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, it sucked.
That's it's saying you gotta appreciate the way how honest and authentic Sark is. Yeah, it sucked. And you know what? We all agree. It did suck. And he talks about how he would have changed the play calling, probably would have had some. I agree. I think the lack of creativity, he wanted to play bully ball, and this was not about innovation and creativity.
He's trying to prove a point.
He wanted to make a statement with that package, that jumbo package, and that statement blew up in his face because Texas couldn't punch it in from 1 yard away, and you don't deserve to win the Texas OU game. That's the battle of the trenches right there. That's the microcosm of it right there. Texas couldn't win the battle of the trenches even when it was obvious that they had the size and the girth advantage in the trenches. They lost on technique. They lost on fundamentals. They kind of lost on the other aspects of trench and line play, and not necessarily the mass. So the big humans thing didn't work out. Still like the big humans, but the point of the big humans is on first and goal on the 1 yard line that you can punch it in with the bigger humans.
And that's one where I think now you have a point of emphasis to challenge them. Like, that shouldn't happen, by the way.
No.
That
doesn't make sense.
That should have been a touchdown.
It doesn't make sense.
And so, just like we heard Sark talking about how he challenged the guys after the Rice game when they weren't physical enough, that's embarrassing when you can't get a yard against your rival in their own end zone. Come on now. I mean, that's got to challenge competitors. We got to be better, y'all. Give them some credit. They stop you one time, maybe two. Tip your cap. They shouldn't be able to stop you 4 times. And credit to Oklahoma because they did. So that's going to be a rallying cry for them. They'll build on that their defense the rest of the year.
That's iconic now. They'll go down in the lore of Texas OU now for decades to come. They'll be playing that when we're all dead, and they're talking about Texas OU. They'll play that goal line stand. It'll be just like, Texas.
Maybe the Roy Williams Superman play.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be one of those plays.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It is now. That's one of those stands. We'll be like, how the hell does that happen in a Texas OU game? How many? I would love to see how many, because Texas has one of those goal line stands. I mean, that's a famous goal line stands, but it's just I'm with you. It defied logic to see to put T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy in there and still not be able to punch it in with that much mass. Because what did Oklahoma do? They went right off the butt of the lead blocker. Every time that lead blocker, because it was predictable. Sark wanted you to know, hey, we're going to run behind these big humans, and you ain't going to be able to stop it. And Oklahoma said, okay, it's good to know you're going, because sometimes.
So, and when you say right off the bat, that means that he was going to, the lead blocker, as big as he can only block one guy.
Yeah. And
the next guy goes right around him.
Exactly. The other guys who are in the run fit, they are waiting on him to choose who he's going to block. Soon as he goes to block him, soon as he engages, right off his butt, because that's where the running back was going. He was going right into that gap, following the lead blocker, and it made it predictable. And essentially, Sark didn't care about predictability because he thought, oh, man, we'll bully these guys and we'll push them around. And no, they found a way, technique-wise, in multiple occasions, to get in there and stuff the run.
We have to mention that X-Man also got face mask on the fourth down play. I mean, you can't just grab someone's helmet and ring it back.
Yeah, you can.
Was he down, though?
Yeah, I think he was down. I didn't see a face mask. I saw a face mask on a kick return that didn't get called against Texas.
When I first saw that replay, I thought he got in. He didn't, but that was about as close as you can possibly get.
Yeah,
I like the fourth down play call. I liked that.
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
No.
You'd rather run it up the middle again?
No, I'd rather do something more creative than just throw a quick wide receiver screen to Xavier Worthy, which, by the way, you started the game with. You throw the quick wide receiver screen to Xavier Worthy a lot. That's not something new. That's not a new concept. That's not brilliant. You do that a lot. From the stack formation of his twins, he does it a lot. I mean, I can think of multiple occasions that he does it. He does that a lot. So that's not something new. It's something.
So all 4 plays are extremely predictable, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why he said it sucked. Because he knows in his mind, he's like, yeah, that sucked. That's why he said I would have changed the sequence. I would have did something really creative at the end instead of something pretty predictable.
Well, and that's where Sark, you diagnosed yesterday, the second play interception was predictable, too, to Oklahoma if you do film study. And you can't be that predictable against your rival who has all offseason to prepare for you. And now 3 years of game film on Sark in this offense. You got to break tendency in those spots. And they certainly jumped that route. And, we got a text that said he was listening to the Paul Feinbaum show yesterday, and Feinbaum was on the field and said he heard Oklahoma knew the signs of the second interception that they knew by shifts of that they were going to JT Sanders, and that's why they jumped on it and obviously
why
popped
they
the ball
pop
up in the air.
Yeah.
So those are things where, yes, look, this is your rival. They're going to scout you rigorously. They're going to have it, as you said, there are like 10 guys just like you, Rod, living in a hole watching film.
And they've been doing it all offseason. And by the way, this has happened for years. I remember B.J. Johnson told us that at one point he went to, I mean, it was a combine. He was in the NFL at one point, and the Oklahoma Sooner told him, oh, yeah, we knew all of y'all's plays from Greg Day. We knew a lot of them plays. We knew what was coming when Greg Day was calling plays because it was too predictable.
Yeah.
And they had studied it. And that's why you got to what I always say, to win games, you got to break tendency in the right moments. And I don't think Sark broke tendency enough there. And I think, honestly, the red zone issues, which we'll play some of the red zone discussion that Sark talked about at the media availability. I think a lot of that may be about breaking tendency, too, because they may be a little predictable in the red zone.
Well, they've got 2 weeks to work on it now, or at least a week off before their next game in 2 weeks. And, the Savion Red package, by the way, has never not worked. I would point that out.
Red
Texas.
Cat, baby.
The Savion Red Wildcat package, they threw off of it this week, which was breaking a tendency.
That was a breaking tendency.
And what I like about Savion Red, by the way, and I don't know that, taking Quinn Ewers off the field may not always be the best, but he's got great vision for finding the hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finding the spot, the crease in that Wildcat. He doesn't just run up into the butt of a guy in front of him. Savion Red seems to have a really good vision, and he's a physical runner. I still like him as maybe a solution for that short yardage problem in the red zone. All right, there's Rod's rant, at least the first part of it. We'll hear more from Sark coming up. Somebody sent us a picture of the face mask that's not called. His butt is on the ground, so he is down.
That's why I said I didn't know if he was down, and sometimes the ref will decide the play's already over. That's after the play. Now, you still can call penalties after the play, but you guys have to understand, Texas OU, the rules of engagement are just different. Y'all know that. Don't act like y'all don't know that. They don't call everything the same as they do in the Texas OU game. There's a lot they let go in the Texas OU game. There's guys standing over guys talking trash. I saw Anthony Hill when he pushed down and Gabriel out of bounds. He went and started talking trash to the whole sideline. He did, and he flexed on him, literally under the sideline. Dude, that's Texas OU. Y'all played that game. You can do things in that game they won't let you do in any other game. Because it's like, man, Texas OU, if I call a penalty on everybody, every confrontation, everybody that drops an expletive, everybody that stands over a guy talking trash, we're going to be here all day.
Yeah, that's that.
We're going to be here all day. We'll call the obvious ones. Everything else we let go. It's Texas OU. Come on, guys. Y'all can, come on. Are we going to be that fan base complaining about that kind of stuff in the Texas OU game? First of all, this is y'all's last year in the Big 12. What did I tell y'all before the season started? You not going to get no calls. Even in the Texas OU game with both y'all leaving, you're not getting calls. You're never going to get these calls. Why are you complaining about calls? You're not going to get them. You were never going to get them. Who in the hell thought, oh, man, our last year farewell tour, we're going to get the calls? Even Sark said it. So what are we thinking? Come on, fans. Come on. You got to let that go. Let that go. We're going to be complaining about this all year long. It's enough to talk about instead of talking about the call you didn't get. Is that the reason we lost the game? Or is it because you had 4 downs on the goal line and couldn't punch it in with the biggest offensive line in the Big 12? Or is it that you were in the red zone 3 times and only scored once? What is it? 3 turnovers. You want to talk about the calls that you didn't get? This is why people complain about Texas fans.
So love Rob Babers. The energy at the end there on a Tuesday, still getting amped up about Texas OU. 512-447-3776 is the text line. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll read some more of those texts, like Freak Nasty saying they didn't see any more losses, and Malik Murphy doesn't need to slide. Quinn does. Malik Murphy needs to slide some. Everybody needs to slide some if you're a quarterback. Don't get hurt. But hopefully we're not even going to see him this year because Quinn's going to keep playing well. We're going to keep winning games, and it's all upwards from here. 512-447-3776. Poll of the day. How many losses do you see on the rest of Texas' schedule? We're saying regular season. We know there's already one. How many more do you see on the rest of the regular schedule next 6 games? What do you got for us? 512-447-3776. We'll be right back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back in the sports complex here on the Horn, playing ACL Fest artists all week long. It's for the 1975 there. We're getting back to your text messages. We're asking you how many more losses do you expect Texas to have this season? Regular season is what we're talking about. 512-447-3776. We have Chan asking that Texas is, he says 0. He says they're supposed to win out. Is BYU the toughest? I think BYU has had Texas' number in the past. I don't know if they're the toughest this season. K-State always is a tough game. The Purple Kryptonite, K-State and TCU back-to-back is always going to be big. And Texas Tech should have a pretty good idea of what they're doing. They're going to be planning hard for that last game of the season. But they're all kind of even. They all have their own challenges. BYU has just always been one that's kind of snuck up on us. So I think people are more worried about that. But Taysom Hill doesn't play there anymore. Still a good team. But I think that's kind of where people, when they're worried about BYU, is those older games that we all remember. Scarlett, I don't want to hear any, we should have tush pushed. They should have been able to pick up one darn yard. They should have. And they should have called better plays. 100%. Schlicky is what we're going with Coach Schlicky. Schlicky. Appreciate that. Kevin from Elgin, the best case scenario is for Oklahoma and Texas to both win out, period, and mean the Big 12 championship, and the winner gets a berth into the playoff. I agree. I hate that Oklahoma, I really hope they lose a couple games. I hate teams that don't have any no non-conference games getting into the playoffs. It just drives me nuts. But they you know what? They beat Texas twice, especially, than they deserve to be in. But yeah, it just drives me nuts when people refuse to schedule non-conference games. It just drives me nuts. And it drives me nuts when Texas does it too. Texas has done it before. They're trying not to now. They're trying to be better about it because of the money. They know they want to make the money. They get the big games. I get it. It's not just a stance of morality like it is for me, where I'd like to just see you kind of go put it out there and, try and go play the best games you can instead of beating up on nobodies and then getting mad when people don't respect your name. The Popcorn Man says, Texas gets 0 more losses for the rest of the season, but I'll hedge my bet, and if they get out-muscled again, you can expect a couple more. I don't think a couple more seems a lot. Ewers choked in the first quarter. He floated to JT. Patrick Hart's Quinn. I do think Quinn's a good quarterback, and I think you guys sometimes are a little rough on quarterbacks. I know you always want that other guy. The grass is always greener at quarterback. Always greener. We'll talk about it with Dak Prescott in the 6 o'clock. We'll talk about it there, too, and I think they're different. They're different at this point. But Quinn Ewers was not a bad quarterback in that game. I know you want 0 interceptions. Nobody goes through a season and doesn't throw any picks and doesn't do anything wrong. Everybody does things wrong. You're just only watching one game for a guide, so you see that. Should have got the tush push going. I'm not a huge fan of the tush push. I think there's guys that can do it. I definitely don't like it with a quarterback like Quinn Ewers that is too skinny, because that's a play where you can get hurt really easily. Just getting shoved between a lot of guys, and if anything gets hit wrong and Oklahoma's coming in there trying to put a hand or anything, I just don't like the tush push with a quarterback the size of Quinn Ewers. Now, if you put in the Savion Red package, maybe a little bit more. I think if you put in Malik Murphy, you could do that, but I'm not sure. We don't know where he is right now. And he's got a cannon for an arm. I don't know what his touch is in short passing situations. Chief Engineer does say, I prefer that he says we sucked on that play in some public relations spin talk. Sark will normally own up on a lot of things he does wrong. There's certain things about players he won't. He won't say bad things about players because he doesn't, want to talk trash about, his players that he thinks of very fondly. I get that. Why do the Twins keep pitching to Yordan Alvarez? Yordan Alvarez with the solo home run in the 9th inning. He is just dominating this postseason against the Twins. What a player. Back to the text line. We got to take a break in just a second. Daydrinker 77. Long earns. The Cowboys have the same MO. I think Texas will bounce back and play in a championship game. Appreciate that, Daydrinker 77. Big Sheezy. If we lose another game, this will be the most disappointing 10-2 season we've ever had. I agree. The hype got so high in the Kool-Aid drinking, and we were saying we don't feel like a number 3 team, but now we're not a number 3 team. It feels bad. I like being the number 3 team. Oh, I hate to say it, 2 more losses. Tell me who you got. Who are the 2 losses? 2 more losses. That seems like a lot there. Send me in. If you got 2 more losses, tell me who they are. We're going to take one more break. Come back in the 6 o'clock hour. We'll go straight till we get to the Rangers at 6:30. We're going to talk a little bit about the Cowboys. Jerry Jones on 105.3 103.53 The Fan in Dallas. We will play you some of that audio that will infuriate you much more than anything Texas right now probably will. I will play you some good news out of Texas too. A good story out of Texas too. All that coming up here on the Sports Complex and more from the text line, 512-447-3776. All that coming up here on the Sports Complex, 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn on a Tuesday afternoon. It's hour 2 of the Sports Complex, an abbreviated hour 2. We're giving you up to Rangers pregame at 6:30 as they take on the Baltimore Orioles. Rangers up 2-0. Will they play tomorrow or will they move on to the ALCS? Looks like the Astros are wrapping up their game. They're going to try and go. They're going to go up 2-1 in that series. They're up 9-1 now after Yordan home run and Jose Abreu 2-run shot. Nathan Eovaldi on the mound for the Rangers tonight. We will get you that game pregame at 6:30. But before we get there, more your text 512-447-3776. I promised you some good news from the Longhorns. So I'll play you that audio as well, and I'll play you some Jerry Jones audio as well. And if we have time, I'll talk a little bit about the Spurs, but we won't try and we'll force that in if we can. All right. But here's the good news, and I'll get back to the text line. I'm going to palate cleanse everything, and then we're going to get back to, you know what? Let me read the text. I'm going to read the text, and then palate cleanse, and then it'll get worse with Jerry Jones. We'll do that because I want to palate cleanse at the end of the Texas talk with us. I think Texas and OU. We've been asking the poll question days. How many losses do you have? Do you see left on Texas' schedule? How many losses? You got 6 games left in the regular season. How many losses do you see on that? We're not asking bowl games or Big 12 championship, which you hope to be in. How many losses do you see there? I think Texas and OU both have one more loss this year, and I don't know where that leaves Texas as far as the Big 12 championship. None of us do. They lose another one, it becomes a lot more clouded because there could be multiple 2-loss teams. And then when it goes down to tiebreakers, which I won't know what they are, and because everybody doesn't play everybody anymore, we don't know what that'll end up being. People refuse to acknowledge Quinn's performance after the rough start and need to sit down and shut up. I don't think they need to sit down and shut up. I'm not telling anybody to sit down and shut up. I am asking you to be a little bit more objective with your own quarterbacks and to not say, well, he threw 2 interceptions and then call like that's the end of the game. Like the stat line somehow doesn't, like the game doesn't play into it that those 2 interceptions were in the first 2 drives and then the rest of the game he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, he did still make some bad, he didn't make all the best passes. But yeah, and then to say he lofted that ball up and all the things, look, there's just some things in there, what you have to do what the coach calls at points, and it is what it is. Run that route that Worthy dropped against Alabama is going to be one of the ones for the goal line, I'm guessing you're talking about. K-State and West Virginia for the 2 losses. We do not play West Virginia, so I don't think that we will get that loss because I do not believe we play West Virginia again. If I've looked at that schedule one more time, I don't believe we do. I'll check it because I don't want to be wrong here, but we don't play West Virginia. So we can't lose that game. So 2 more losses. We play Houston, BYU, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. Those are the ones, but we can't say you could have lose Kansas State, but that cannot lose West Virginia. We do have I've been infuriated with Jerry Jones since he fired Jimmy Johnson. Yes, we will get to that, and I will make you more infuriated with him, I promise. 0 losses. Our schedule is weak from the very beginning. I thought it would be a loss to Bama and a beat OU, so you had a 1-loss season. And Chief Engineer, I feel like Quinn will be even better next year. He doesn't have a ton of playing time as a whole, and certainly not in one system or scheme. We don't know because he may be in the NFL. His plan is to be in the NFL, so we do not know. Here's your palate cleanser, though, guys. Arch Manning, he got that card. He raised that card sold for over $100,000, raised a bunch of money for the Panini signed 1-of-1 card and all that. They made all this money. It was NIL, so he could keep the money. He said today he will not be keeping the money. Here's the sound of what Arch Manning did with the over $100,000 he raised selling his card.
Thank you, Mr. Berger, and thank you all for having me. When I first partnered with Panini to auction off my trading card, I wanted the money to go to a good cause. Helping children live healthy and fulfilling lives was important to me and my family. With that being said, I'm donating 100% of the proceeds from my trading card to Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central Texas. Thank you all.
There you go. He donated all of it, the entire proceeds to the Ronald McDonald House of Central Texas. Very cool thing for Arch Manning. I know he doesn't need the money. Some of these other guys do. I get it. But he doesn't have to do that. He's a young man. He does not have to give up more money than most of us make in a year to give to charity. So hats off to Arch Manning. That's our palate cleanser, guys. Arch Manning, third string quarterback for Texas, is able to give away $100,000. That's how powerful Texas is. We'll ignore the fact that he's a Manning. Third string quarterback for Texas donates $100,000. That's the power that Texas is. There's your palate cleanser. Text line's still open. We'll see if we get back to it here at the end of the show. 512-447-3776. Jerry Jones was on 105.3 The Fan. We were off a little bit early. I'll tell you what. Let me tell you about my friends, Dr. Greg Eckert and Brain Vault. I want to tell you about them. Brain Vault is a sports science technology founded locally right here in Austin, Texas. Brain Vault is a patented technology based on proven science delivered through mouthguard to help reduce the risk of concussion. Brain Vault has used their technology for the past 8 years with roughly 100 NFL players with no concussions reported. And Brain Vault has now brought their technology used in the NFL in a retail version so your sons and daughters can have the same level of protection that NFL players have experienced. Brain Vault is now widely used at the college, high school, and middle school levels. Many of Texas high school and college football players have been wearing the Brain Vault custom mouthguard for the past 2 seasons, and now again this season with tremendous results. They've raved over the fit, the comfort, and protection from the Brain Vault custom mouthguards. Many athletes continue to wear their Brain Vault custom mouthguards in their other high school, middle school sports such as lacrosse, rugby, soccer, basketball, baseball, and cheerleading. Whatever you're going to do with it, I would have been wearing it when everywhere. I know I was prone to concussions when I was younger, and probably got some playing basketball even, which is terrible, but I definitely would have been wearing mine all over the place. Parents that love Brain Vault mouthguard can be worn in all sports, and now their athletes receive that protection throughout their entire athletic career. Brain Vault is currently conducting team and group fittings for college, high school, and middle school athletes in Central Texas. If you're a coach, trainer, booster club member, team parent, visit brainvault.com for more information to set your team up or get a group fitting today. There's no reason you shouldn't be going to brainvault.com if you have a kid that is playing sports and looking this up. Just go, give it a look, read over what it is. I promise you're going to be excited about the technology and what they've been working on at Brain Vault. So at least go give it a look. If nothing else, go give it a look right now. Brainvault.com. Brainvault.com. Join the movement. It's one of the safest and most comfortable mouth guards you can wear. It's got a custom fit. You can talk, communicate, breathe easily. You don't have to take out the mouth guard to talk. They can be worn in all sports. Check it out. Brainvault.com. Join the movement. All right. Now we got through all that. Let's talk about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. Jerry Jones won 105.3 The Fan. And, this is his interview. He tries to give it. He basically said the same thing a bunch of times. He gave a bunch of the same answers. I tried to cut some of them out. I didn't want to give you the whole thing because it is a lot. But basically, his main sentiment that he wanted to go on to say, we have the players, we have the coaches. Here's Jerry Jones and kind of the main sentiment he was putting out today.
I see we have the players and we have the systems in place to do it. We have, in my mind, make no mistake about it, we have a quarterback that can get us there. And so I feel very strongly there. We have coaching on both sides of the ball that can get us there.
Yeah. He's saying we have everything. Guys, relax. Just relax. We have everything we need. It's all there. Don't worry. It's okay. I know we had a bad game. And this is what he said a lot, too. Anything can happen in the NFL. We go, yeah, we saw that in the Cardinals game. In the Cardinals game, you can say anything can happen in the NFL. You can't say that when you keep saying, well, the 49ers game is where we're going to see if we're any good. And the 49ers are the team that keeps knocking us out. And that's our benchmark. And I can tell you your other benchmark is going to be the Eagles. And if you're not ready by that game, it's going to be hard times for Jerry Jones because it's going to be getting pretty late. You're going to have to make that decision before the Eagles game, I believe, if you're going to do anything. But it was just, we got the players. We got it. We will be good. We'll be good. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. We have the players. We just need to change up what we do. We just need to change up what we do. And this is what he says. We've got to change. We've got to change what we do.
My life has always been working for myself. And consequently, when you work for yourself, you have to change what you're looking at in the mirror. That doesn't work anymore, or that's not working, and you have to go change it. In this particular case, we have to do some changes from within, and I'm talking technical things now. I'm not talking about the will and the attitude and the work ethic that's with this team. This team's got that. And we have players in place. Do we have it at quarterback? Let me be very affirmative. I completely believe that we have the quarterback that can take us where we want to go. Do we have the coaching staff on both sides of the ball? And I certainly do. Did Sunday reflect that? No.
You got to make changes. We're not making any changes. Now, he kept saying we're going to make changes. The changes are going to be schematic changes. Schematic changes. And by the way, I will tell you, Kurt Warner tweeted out something, which is what coverage you want to see from ex-player athletes, from ex-players when they're doing their commentating, that we've seen a couple guys come out that are just there for the clicks that have said whatever about Dak Prescott. He's just a terrible quarterback. I don't need your breakdown of he's a terrible quarterback. Anybody can say it. Kurt Warner actually breaks down how the route was not run correctly on one of his interceptions. And he shows that it's on a slant route and that it's just not done correctly. Now, whether that's a wide receiver problem, whether it's a practice problem, whether that's a coaching problem, that we don't know. But we can tell you that it was not 100% Dak's fault that he's put in a position where he has a harder time to win. And that's where apparently Jerry is saying we need to fix that. We need to fix those things. Now, I don't know why he believes the same guys who put you in that problem are going to be able to get you out of that problem, that when we knew the problems were there with Kellen Moore, that you were able to do certain things against bad teams and not do them against good teams, and then Kellen Moore leaves, and it's the same exact problem. And now you may go, oh, that wasn't Kellen Moore. That wasn't Kellen Moore who didn't put together, that was not putting together the best game plans against good teams and wasn't changing things up and wasn't breaking tendencies and wasn't, making sure that everything was tamped down to be perfectly right. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe he wasn't the one that was catching it. No one was catching it. It wasn't just him. Schottenheimer was on this staff last year as an advisor. Mike McCarthy's been there for 3 years now. Maybe how have those guys never caught it? And he certainly hasn't caught it now, but we're supposed to believe he's going to figure it out. And but this is the problem. That's what Jerry said in that he says at the beginning of that. He goes, I work for myself, and I know when something's wrong, I got to change it. And then he just says, but we're not going to change anything. And I get he says we're going to change little things, but he doesn't mean that. When he worked for himself, he didn't say, well, I wake up and I can't sell anything, So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to knock with my left hand now. Because that's basically what he's saying. I'm going to door-to-door sales, and I was knocking with my right hand. That's why I'm not selling anything. Knock with my right hand. I'll knock with my left hand. Sales are going to go through the roof. It's wishful thinking, and it's craziness. And this is the one that gets me the most. This is the one that infuriated me the most because he says one thing and immediately backtracks on the other end. The beginning of this has some sort of old-school Jerry Jones wisdom in it. And the end of it has old man Jerry Jones written all over it.
I'm not panicked, but the gap is. I don't want to. When something tells you what it is, don't try to dream that it's something else. Now, what I'm trying to say is we can do better than what we did out there Sunday night. That's a given. We can do better. We have the potential to do better. We have the preparation to do better.
When something tells you it is what it is, don't dream it's something else. And then immediately says, we could be better. We are better than that. That wasn't us. I'm dreaming again. He has a lucid moment there. He has that little moment where he's right on. Don't look at something. When something tells you what it is, don't dream that it's something else. Solid advice. When you see something and you know what it is, don't dream that it's something else. Don't pretend that your problems aren't going to be there. You know what it is. I can't go eat a big plate of nachos and not expect to gain more weight. Can't go, well, you know what? I put extra jalapenos on it. That's like veggies. Now it's great. No, it's telling me what it is. They're telling you what it is. They told you what it is. You can't beat the 49ers. You're going to continue to not beat the 49ers. You're not going to beat the Eagles. Trade deadline's on the 31st of October. Are you going to be able to make the moves you need to make and salvage your season if you go through this next few games and you don't make any and you only make small adjustments and you change up routes a little bit and you do what your little bit you can do and you go up and you play the Chargers on Monday Night Football? What if the Chargers beat you? What if Kellen Moore knows what you're going to do and you don't change enough? And that whole crap about getting Trey Lance and he was going to tell you what the 49ers do. That stupid whole thing that people were talking about. Well, yeah, they got your offensive coordinator, so they know what you're going to do. The playbook doesn't look that different to me. Then you got the Rams. Aaron Donald's coming after Dak Prescott. You don't think that's going to be a problem? That Rams defense playing a little bit better? Matt Stafford coming out. Maybe they'll be able to get some things going against this Cooper Kupp just going little short routes all day long. Maybe they can go. Then you play the Eagles on 11-5. It's too late. Trade deadline's on the 31st. If you're going to make a move, is your season over on 11-5? If you drop 3 games in a row, 2 or 3 of those, how do you feel at the end of that? When something tells you what it is, don't dream it's something else. And then he talks over it. Well, what I meant was we have the ability to be better. What I meant is I'm dreaming. I'm going to tell you that I'm dreaming, that I'm going to dream. Just craziness from Jerry there. And I get, my man Chan on the text line always tries to talk me into a sanity that it's Jerry Jones and it's the Cowboys, and you can't think logically in these things. Beginning of that again.
I'm not panicked, but the gap is, I don't want to, when something tells you what it is, don't try to dream that it's something else.
Yeah. Don't try and dream that it's something else. What? You can't say that. And then come out. Thanks to 105.3 The Fan for putting up this audio. I appreciate it. You can always hear his interviews on there. Every Tuesday, I think he does them after games. You can go listen to Jerry Jones, and there's 20 minutes on that interview if you want to listen to the whole thing. They got it posted up. You can go find it. I think he's posted on the Dallas Cowboys YouTube, too. You can go find it wherever you find it and hear him talk about this for 20 minutes and kind of say the same thing over and over again, say Dak's our quarterback. We think he can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And Mike McCarthy, we got the coaches. We just need to be better. We just need to be better. If something tells you what it is, don't dream it's something else. There's something there, Jerry. You were right for a minute. And then it all went downhill. All went downhill. We're almost out of time. I did tell you I was going to give you an update. I'm going to try and leave on something more positive. I know you guys on the text line I do like this text. I watched my team on Saturday lose, and I still feel a lot of hope. I saw my team on Sunday lose, and I have zero hope. It's kind of how I feel. And I'm not a Cowboys fan. I cover the Cowboys because we work here in Austin. I know a lot of you guys that listen are Cowboys fans. I'm rooting for the Texans. I can break down their stuff, but not as many Texans fans out there. So I go with we talk about the Cowboys. So we go with that. Chief Engineer, your Raiders did win the game last night. Jordan Love looked terrible. But the Raiders are at the point where the Texans were at a few years ago. The Texans were at where I was like, just lose all the games, just fire everybody, just clean house, and then let's get happy again. Let's let it get really bad so we can get good again. As long as Josh McDaniels can stay, it's going to be terrible. Hate that stuff. Just not a Josh McDaniels fan. Real bad taste in my mouth. Sorry that you have to deal with that, Chief Engineer. That's a terrible thing. But I do. Before we get out of here, I will give you the update. Guess what? Wembanyama looks great. He looked a little timid at the beginning of the game. It's going to take him a while to get used to it. I wouldn't put that you're thinking that he's going to win MVP this season because, he's going to have to get better at bumping around for rebounds, especially, and getting loose balls and being okay in there and, the contact. And both him and Chet Holmgren are flexing. The two skinniest guys you've ever seen are flexing out there. Chet Holmgren looked really good. That Oklahoma City team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. If you have League Pass, that is League Pass required viewing. Oklahoma City with Josh Giddey, SGA, and now Chet Holmgren looking good out there. But Wembanyama doing things that you don't expect guys to be able to do at that size. I mean, just looked really, really good out there. So if you're a Spurs fan, that's some good news going your way. If you see something tells you what it is, don't dream that it's going to be something else. That's crazy that he said that and then lied for another 20 minutes. I tell you what. All right, we got to get out of here. Rangers pregame coming up right here on the Horn. We'll be back tomorrow. If the Rangers lose tonight, it'll be a really short show tomorrow. If they win tonight, they're on to the ALCS. So we will be on full show tomorrow, but we will find out tonight. So tune into the game to find out what our schedule will be tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and playing on the text line. Until tomorrow, be safe, be kind, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock on the Sports Complex on the Horn.